I am on the docs page of EXE.dev where they explain the whole idea behind the cloud provider. In short, the way to think about it is that you basically get this one instance. It comes with some CPUs, some RAMs, some disk. But on a personal plan, the funny thing is that you can actually take that one instance and split that up into not one, but 50 different VMs that you could do whatever with. You can expose these VMs to the internet. You can also keep them internal, such as you can only access them if you're actually logged in. But the really cool thing about just having access to 50 VMs is it starts to get the mind going of, gee, what would I do if I just could bring up a VM for basically anything? Because it turns out that there's a bunch of these little problems that I have that are just fixed if you have an insanely cheap VM that you can just throw around. So as one does, you start thinking a bit. And in my case, I figured that, hey, what I just need is a very convenient way to share fun data sets. I do a bunch of education. For that, I need to explain sometimes algorithms, sometimes machine learning. And in order to do any of that, you need a data set around in order for the examples to be tangible. So having a convenient way to share data would be great. And it turns out that there's this project made by Simon Willison called Datasette. You kind of spell it like cassette, but you write dataset instead. And the whole point is that it gives you both a web app as well as a JSON API so that you could write SQL against a SQLite instance. And here's mine. It only has a few data sets in it, but just to give you an example of what you could do with this, right now I just added this one data set over here, H3 units. If you've ever played the Heroes of Might and Magic video game, these are all the units that are in there. Now, some of these units are from unofficial expansion packs, but there you go. These are the castle units. You've got your archer, you've got your champion, you've got your whatever. And for each and every single one of these units, there's some stats that you can go ahead and download. A really cool thing is also that you can just add images if you wanted to, or audio. There's all sorts of plugins in this ecosystem. What's also pretty neat is that from the UI over here, it's rudimentary, but it really gets the job done, is that you can do things like, oh, I want to facet this by town and give me all the units that are from the Stronghold faction. And there you go. I'm making a little bit of a subset by doing this. But from this view, you can also choose to get the same data that you see down below over here, not as a web page, but as JSON or as a CSV file. And this is a really convenient way, again, to share data sets with people. One fun fact also is that you can choose to view and edit this as SQL. So instead of doing things with the UI, you can also just write SQL directly. And the thing that's pretty neat here is that also anything you write in SQL here can also be turned into a JSON GET request. In this case, there's a bunch of images, which is why there's a base 64 representation. But if you look at the full thing on top over here, you're going to see SQL equals select plus row ID, etc. So you have an API, you can write SQL, but you can also download the whole data set as you see fit. You can just download the full CSV. But this is just one of the many fun data sets that I have. And yes, I'm a bit of a video game nerd, so I didn't just do this for Heroes of Might and Magic. I also did this for Command and Conquer. So if you were a fan of Dune 2000, at least I was back when I was a kid, that's also a data set that I can go ahead and host quite easily. And I'm really just scratching the surface here, but there are two things maybe to take away from this observation. First of all, dataset is sweet. If you want to share datasets in a fun way so that people can immediately hack with it, dataset is just the best. So have a look at that if you haven't already. But the second observation is that, oh, I just want to be able to run things like this very easily. On a normal cloud provider, I wouldn't take the effort to boot up a VM for this. But the fact you're able to just get so many VMs out of your instance also means that there's really no reason not to just go for it, which means you're actually going to make some web apps that are just super useful. In this case, I set this app to be public, which also means that you can explore datasets that are on here. What is also really convenient is that you get an LLM attached. It's called Shelly. This is something you can also access via the web app. If you want to bootstrap a VM real quick, this is super useful. But the final feature that's also really neat in this setup is you can go to the editor over here. You can say you want to open up the editor. And there you go. I am now in Z. And that means that if I want to upload a CSV file because I have a new fun data set, I can just click and drag a file in here, write a command to restart dataset to include that file, and life is good. I get all that SSH goodness, which you typically don't get when you do anything with a cloud function. So life just becomes pretty simple when you have VMs again. And it's not just for you, it's also for agents. And yeah, long story short, this is the story of a cute little dataset instance that I'm running that's hosting a couple of fun datasets about video games, amongst other things. And I would not have done this were it not for a cloud provider that just makes VMs that simple.